Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So dear devotees, in this very wonderful book, The Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, in the second chapter, Srila Prabhupada describes the reunion of Srila Sanatana Goswami with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, and on the pretext of going to Sri Vrindavan Dham, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with Nityananda Prabhu, Thakur Haridas, and all his associates, he came to a place called Ramakeli. Ramakeli was the headquarters of the regime of Nawab Hussain Shah, who was the emperor of Gauda Desh 500 years ago. And his chief ministers, his main ministers were Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik, who were originally from a very pious Saraswat Brahman family, very cultured family. But somehow Nawab Hussain Shah practically forced them to serve him. He threatened them that if they did not serve him, then the Hindus would be tortured, temples would be broken, and therefore, to maintain peace, Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik, their names were Santosh and Amar. Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik, they took up employment under Nawab Hussain Shah. Their names were changed from Santosh and Amar to Dabir Khas and Sakar Malik. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Ramakeli in the middle of the night, wearing the clothes of ordinary citizens, these very high-ranking ministers of Nawab Hussain Shah, they came and secretly met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu initiated them, accepted them as his disciples, and renamed them as Sakar Malik became Sanatan, and Dabir Khas became Rupa. So Rupa and Sanatan Goswami were in this way initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and accepted as his own associates. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed both of them to continue serving Nawab Hussain Shah until the appropriate time came. And he blessed them that in due course of time, you will be released from this materialistic life of service to Nawab Hussain Shah. After some time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he returned to Jagannath Puri. During this trip, when he came to Ramakeli, he did not go to Vrindavan. He turned back and he returned to Sri Jagannath Puri Dham. The next year, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again convinced the devotees to give him permission to go to Vrindavan. And this time, along with Balabhadra Bhattacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually went to Vrindavan Dham. After visiting Vrindavan, he stayed in Vrindavan for a little over a month. He actually reached towards the end of the holy month of Kartik. This is the time when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Sri Vrindavan Dham. And on his way back from Vrindavan Dham, he again stopped at Varanasi. At that time, Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami received news that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to Mathura Vrindavan Dham. They did not know his plans of stopping at Varanasi, but they wanted to dedicate their lives in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they wanted to go to Vrindavan and meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they sought permission from Nawab Hussain Shah. Srila Prabhupada writes in this book, in the second chapter, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada writes that it seems that Srila Rupa Goswami got the permission, but Sanatana Goswami was not given permission. So Rupa Goswami, he collected all his wealth, and it was so much that the gold and silver coins that Sri Rupa Goswami had earned through his service to Nawab Hussain Shah, it filled a huge boat. It was immense wealth, fabulous wealth. By today's calculations, easily Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswami would have been multi-billionaires. multi-billionaires. So Srila Rupa Goswami took his money and he divided into two parts, two halves. One half he donated to the Vaishnavas and the temples. The second half he further divided into two parts. 1/4 of the total wealth he gave to his family members for their maintenance so that they don't have any financial anxiety. So out of his total wealth, 50% was given in charity to the Brahman Vaishnavas. 25% was given to family members to manage their expenses. And the remaining 25% was stored for emergency purposes. And specifically, Srila Rupa Goswami, he left a lot of gold coins with a grocer, local grocer. In those days, those grocers functioned as the bankers. There were no formal banks in those days. So the grocers would work as bankers also. So Rupa Goswami kept 25% of his wealth with a local grocer as emergency funds for his family. Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his younger brother Anupam, went to Shri Vrindavan Dham to meet Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they met Mahaprabhu in Prayag. Sanatan Goswami, however, was not given permission. So Srila Sanatan Goswami, he continued to stay in his house. It was a palatial mansion in Ramkeli. He continued to stay there, but he took sick leave. He submitted sick leave, and instead he called a few Brahmanas home who were learned in Srimad Bhagavatam, and sitting down with them, Srila Sanatan Goswami began an in-depth study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Day and night he would read and study Srimad Bhagavatam very scrutinizingly. Nawab Hussain Shah was very concerned because Nawab Hussain Shah had a very easy life. He would spend his time partying, making merry, going on hunting expeditions, conquering new territories, and basically having a good time. And Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, they were managing everything, the entire administration of the kingdom. And they were doing it in a very, very amazingly competent way. So Nawab Hussain Shah had it very easy as long as Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis were working for him. Now Rupa Goswami is gone and Sanatan Goswami is also on sick leave. Nawab Hussain Shah grew restless. He sent his own physician, Vaidya, to the palace of Sanatan Goswami to check on him. Why is he turning in so many sick leaves? The Vaidya came, he saw Sanatan Goswami and reported back to Nawab Hussain Shah that there is nothing physically wrong with Sanatan Goswami. He's sitting and studying Srimad Bhagavatam. Nawab Hussain Shah got very angry and he came and confronted Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami received Nawab Hussain Shah very respectfully, even though he was a very sinful meat eater. He received him very respectfully, got up from his place, offered a nice place for Nawab Hussain Shah to sit down. Nawab Hussain Shah told him, why are you not reporting to work? Sanatan Goswami said, I don't have a desire to work. Nawab Hussain Shah said, I cannot function without you. We are brothers. And because of you, I am able to go hunting. I am able to enjoy life. I am able to have it very easy. If you are not working, who is going to manage the entire administration? I want you to report back. Or you decide what you want. If you don't work, then you are liable for punishment. Srila Sanatan Goswami folded his hands and said, I am sorry, but I am not able to work. I will not be able to work. I requested you, please relieve me from the services, find someone else, but you did not grant me. You did not terminate my services. You ordered me to stay. So I am staying, but I cannot work. Please forgive me. You can punish me the way you feel fit. Nawab Hussain Shah understood. He got angry and he left in great rage. And he ordered his soldiers, arrest that Sanatan and throw him in the prison. And Nawab Hussain Shah, along with his army, he went to attack Orissa, where Maharaj Pratap Rudra was the king. And Sanatan Goswami was in the prison. Rupa Goswami had sent some servants to find out the exact details of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's travel plans. As soon as he heard back that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in fact going to Vrindavan with Balabhadra Bhattacharya, Rupa Goswami sent a very mysterious, cryptical letter, a coded, encrypted letter to Sanatan Goswami that you should immediately try to come to Vrindavan. The Lord of Mathura, the Lord of this whole world is coming there. Sanatan Goswami became very happy upon receiving this letter, and he immediately started considering, how can I go and meet the Lord of my life, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? How can I? Rupa Goswami conveyed to Sanatan Goswami that there were some emergency funds with the grocer. Sanatan Goswami acquired those funds, and when the Nawab had gone to conquer Orissa, he called the jailer and he told the jailer, my dear jailer, the jailer was also a Muslim. He said, my dear jailer, previously when I was the chief minister, now I am just a prisoner, but previously when I was a chief minister, I have done you many favors. The jailer said, yes, you have done many favors, yes. Sanatan Goswami said, now it is time for you to return that favor, please. I have a desire to go to Mecca for Hajj, for a pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. So please cut my shackles and let me escape from jail so that I can go to Mecca for a religious pilgrimage. According to Shastra, a person who cuts the shackles of a prisoner and lets him go, sets someone free, that person gets immense pious credits. And that person in turn gets freed from the shackles of material existence. So I am requesting you, I am a prisoner, please free me. You will get pious credits materially. And because I am going on a religious pilgrimage, you will get spiritual credits also. So it's a win-win situation for you. Please let me go. And as far as material prosperity is concerned, here are 5,000 gold coins. Please keep this 5,000 gold coins as a small gift. Now in those days, 5,000 gold coins was a huge amount of money. Huge amount of money. It meant literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. So in today's calculation. So he said, please keep this money. The jailer said, I have no problem accepting this money. I have no problem cutting your shackles and allowing you to cross the Ganga and escape from the prison of Ramakeli. I have no problem. I would like to do it. I know you are a nice man, but I am afraid of the Nawab. If the government finds out that I let you free, he will kill me. Nawab Hussain Shah will kill me. He's very cruel. Srila Sanatan Goswami was prepared. He told the jailer, listen, my dear brother, you don't have to worry about that. Just tell the Nawab when he comes that you took me to answer nature's call. The soldiers took me outside to answer nature's calls. And seeing Ganga with my shackles, I just ran and I jumped into the surging waters of the Ganga, the swift currents of the Ganga. And because I had iron shackles in my hands, with the weight, I couldn't swim, I couldn't keep afloat, and I drowned and died, and I was swept away by the waves of Ganga. Just tell them that the soldiers saw me jump into Ganga and die. I committed suicide. And I will give you extra 2,000 gold coins. So instead of 5,000, take 7,000 gold coins. Sanatan Goswami gave him an offer that was very difficult to resist. The jailer accepted. He took the 7,000 gold coins from Srila Sanatan Goswami and personally helped him cross the Ganga after cutting his iron shackles. In this way, Sanatan Goswami was free, but Sanatan Goswami could not travel through the main road. So he had to travel through the jungles so that he is not discovered, because he was famous. As the chief minister, he was very famous and well known in that part of the country. So what does this teach us, my dear friends? This is not just a great adventure of Srila Sanatan Goswami, our Sambandha Acharya. It's not just a fascinating, intriguing story, but there are life lessons for all of us. The life lesson is that this world is a crazy place. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said that this world is not a place for gentlemen. This world is not a place for gentlemen. This is a cruel place. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this world is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Anityam asukham lokam. So therefore, we should not build plans to stay here permanently. We should not expect a comfortable situation in this world. Everyone has to go through miseries in this world because this is Dukkhalaya. It is a place of sorrow. To serve Krishna, sometimes we may have to, sometimes, Sanatana Goswami did it only once. Sometimes we may have to break the mundane moral rules for a higher purpose. And that is okay. That is okay. If for a higher purpose, we sometimes have to break moral codes, it is perfectly fine. As long as our intention is clear, our intention is pure, our motive is spiritual, and we are not trying to pull anyone down. Here, the jailer had nothing to lose. It was a win-win situation for him. Krishna will be very kind to that jailer because he allowed Sanatana Goswami to escape. And he was a materialistic person. He got material wealth also. Nor did the Nawab punish him. So Sanatana Goswami did not put anyone in harm's way. But he lied that he was going to Mecca. In a way, he did not lie because he was going to a holy place of pilgrimage, to Vrindavan Dham, to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the abode of all holy places. So Srila Sanatana Goswami saying that I am going on a holy pilgrimage was not a lie. Was not a lie. Although at face value, it was a lie. But actually it was not a lie. So sometimes we may have to tell white lies. We may have to break certain moral codes of this world for a higher purpose. And that is okay. That is okay. But we have to be careful. We have to be careful. For example, one sadhu, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to distribute prasadam. So he would make very nice cookies and distribute it to college students in the universities of North America. And many times they would look at him suspiciously. Who is this weird guy with shaven head, and he's young, but he has no hair, and he's wrapped in what look like bed sheets. He's got this paint on his face, and he's got this tuft of hair. He's wearing necklaces around the neck. It looks very weird. Who is this? And he's giving us these cookies. Should we eat or should we not eat? Are they poisoned cookies? Do they have some drugs in it? So many times the students would not accept. But if they ate the cookies, they will get spiritual benefit because it is Krishna Prasad. Sometimes the sadhu would tell them that my mother has baked these cookies for all of you. Please accept. When they would hear, oh, my mother has baked. Oh, he's a regular person like us. He has a mother and, mother has baked. So they would accept. So these are white lies and these are all right. But we have to be very careful. We should never lie to cause hurt or damage to devotees. Another incident happened where a spiritual master once told a temple leader to see if some funds could be raised because the temple was undergoing some renovation. So there was a congregation devotee who was known to be generous. So the temple leader asked the spiritual master, is it okay if I approach him? Because he was a god brother. Is it okay if I approach him for some money? And the spiritual master said, yes, you can approach him, you can ask him if he can donate. So this temple leader goes to this devotee, the Grahastha devotee, and tells him that Shri Guru has instructed you to give so many lakhs of rupees donation. And because Shri Guru has said, this devotee, he couldn't afford it, but he didn't want to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. So he took a loan and he gave that donation. And it put him in a lot of financial difficulty. And then later on, when the spiritual master found out that the temple leader had lied to him, saying that the spiritual master has instructed you to donate, so then he chastised the temple leader. So this type of lies are not good. This is not a white lie. Yes, it is a donation for Krishna, but it should not be done like this. As devotees, we should be gentlemen and we should be straightforward and honest. This type of cheating is absolutely very immoral. It is sinful and even an offense. So we should be very careful. We have to use our intelligence. What is a white lie and what is not a white lie? What is okay and what is not okay? Srila Sanatana Goswami, being our Acharya, is showing us what is okay, what is good. So Srila Sanatana Goswami, he escaped from the prison and taking the interior forest roads without any facilities for comforts and luxuries, just taking one servant with him, Ishan, without any money. He started traveling through the hilly regions of that area, and he came to a place called Patada. It was a very difficult to cross hilly terrain, that area. And Srila Sanatana Goswami came to the house of a person who lived there, hoping that he could help him cross across that hilly tract of area. When he came there was an astrologer in that area who told this person, who was like a landlord, told him that this traveler who is coming, he has got 8 gold coins with him. He's very rich. So just wanted to give you that information. The astrologer told the landlord. The landlord was, see, I told you, 8 gold coins, someone is willing to commit a murder. So imagine what is 7,000 gold coins. So the astrologer said this traveler means the Sanatana Goswami has got 8 gold coins with him. So the landlord said, all right, that's fine. So he told Sanatana Goswami, the landlord said, oh, please come, spend the night here. I will give you some grains, you cook for yourself and you stay here comfortably. Tomorrow morning, I will help you cross the hilly region so you can be on your way to Vrindavan. Sanatana Goswami accepted, but Sanatana Goswami was a very intelligent person. Srila Sanatana Goswami was very educated. He was the chief minister of Bengal under Nawab Hussain Shah. So he knew diplomacy and he had human skills. He was very, very intelligent. He was fluent in Urdu, fluent in Arabic, fluent in Persian, fluent in Bengali, and fluent in Sanskrit. He was a linguist, Srila Sanatana Goswami, and a scholar. And not just a bookish scholar, but he knew dunyadari. He knew the ways of this world. He understood what is diplomacy. And he became very suspicious. Why is this landowner so sweet to me? Why is he keeping me overnight? Why is he giving me food to cook? Does he have some ulterior motive? I think he wants something that I have, but I have nothing. Maybe my servant is carrying something. Ishan. Srila Sanatana Goswami went to Ishan and asked him, my dear servant, Ishan, are you carrying any money with you? Ishan looked down. He was not supposed to carry anything, but Ishan had stolen some money from Sanatana Goswami's savings that Srila Rupa Goswami had left behind for him. He had 8 gold coins. So Ishan again lied. So first cheating on the part of Ishan was that he carried money without taking permission from Sanatana Goswami. It was Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami's money, but Ishan pocketed 8 gold coins without telling. He cheated. He stole. He stole from Sanatana Goswami. First mistake. Second mistake. When Srila Sanatana Goswami confronted him and asked him, are you carrying any money with you? He said, yes, Prabhu, I am carrying 7 gold coins. He did not want to own up all that he had. He kept 1 gold coin for himself. He said, 7 gold coins I am carrying. Srila Sanatana Goswami was very trusting. He said, okay, give it to me. The servant gave 7 gold coins to Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami immediately went to the landowner and handed him over the 7 gold coins and said, I am a prisoner of the state, but I am going on a holy pilgrimage to Sri Vrindavan Dham. Please perform this pious activity of helping me cross this hilly land. Please take these 7 gold coins. and let me go. Seeing his straightforwardness, seeing his candor and his honesty, the landowner was very touched. He said, you are a real sadhu. You're very straightforward. I don't want these 7 coins. You keep the 7 gold coins, but just as a pious deed, I will help you cross the hilly region. Srila Sanatana Goswami did not fall for this temptation of keeping those 7 gold coins. He said, no. If you don't take these 7 gold coins, someone else will kill me for these 7 gold coins. The landowner said, yes, I was planning to kill you. Sanatana Goswami said, yes, someone else will kill me. So don't give me this gold coins. I don't want those 7 gold coins. You keep it. I'm giving them to you. This is a gift from me. Keep it. Just let me cross. Help me cross, please. The landowner says, all right. He accepted those 7 gold coins as a gift, and he helped Srila Sanatana Goswami along with his servant Ishan to cross that dangerous, rocky, hilly tract of land. After crossing, Srila Sanatana Goswami thanked the servants of this landowner, and then he turned towards Ishan. He asked Ishan, Ishan, do you have any more money? Sanatana Goswami knew he had 1 more gold coin because the astrologer had predicted 8 gold coins. The landowner told that I knew from my astrologer that you have 8 gold coins and I was going to kill you for those 8 gold coins. Thank you for giving me the 7 gold coins. The landowner presumed that Sanatana Goswami wants to keep 1 gold coin and he was okay with that. Sanatana Goswami he told Ishan, are you carrying any more gold coins? Ishan looked down. This was his second mistake. He lied to Sanatana Goswami. But now he came clean. He said, yes, Prabhu, I have 1 gold coin left. Here, take it. Sanatana Goswami said, no, I don't want it. You have it, you keep it. But you cannot come with me. You go back. Use that 1 gold coin for your personal expenses and return home. I release you, I relieve you from all services. From today, you are not my servant. You go back. From here on, I want to travel alone. Srila Sanatana Goswami said. Several lessons here also. One is, one should never cheat Shri Guru. We should never cheat Shri Guru. We should never cheat our spiritual superiors. Never. That is the last thing. We should never cheat. Can you imagine the fortune of Ishan if only he would have faithfully served Srila Sanatana Goswami? Few days from now, he would be sitting in the house of Chandrasekhar along with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Did Ishan even realize that his master, Sri Sanatana Goswami, who was Sakar Malik, is actually Lavanga Manjari from the Nikunjas of Goloka Vrindavan? He was serving a Nitya Siddha, but for 1 gold coin, he lost everything. Ishan lost everything. He lost his service to Srila Sanatana Goswami. He lost the opportunity to have darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 1 gold coin. Just think about this. What are those gold coins in our life? We have to analyze. We have to search our own heart. Are we completely non-duplicitous? We have to be. If we are duplicitous, even if it is duplicity for 1 gold coin, we will lose Shri Guru, Sanatana Goswami, and we will lose Krishna, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is a lesson from this. Another lesson is we have to tread our path alone in bhakti. The path to Krishna, we have to travel it alone. We have fellow devotees to encourage us. If we fall down, they will help us. They will give us a helping hand. We'll get up and we give them a helping hand. That is the nature of spiritual friendships. When 2 of us are friends, sometimes I will feel spiritually strong. My sadhana will be going strong. My consciousness is good. And your consciousness may be weak. You may feel spiritually down. You may fall prey to anarthas every now and then. Then I have to give a helping hand. I have to inspire. And sometimes I will fall prey. I will be spiritually weak. I will feel very low spiritually. And you will be doing well. You will be feeling strong spiritually. You will be in high consciousness, high spirits, Krishna conscious spirits. So you have to give me a helping hand. This is the meaning of dadati pratigrinati. We give help and we accept help. We give gifts of good association and we receive gifts of good association. This is Dadati Pratigana. This is Priti Lakshanam. This is loving friendships, my dear friends. So we have such friendships, yes. But this we have to do alone. This no one can do for us. Sometimes if there's a festival, we hire cooks. We pay them money. Come and cook for this festival in the temple. Devotees. We pay devotees. Come and cook. Come and become a pujari. We will give you this much salary. Temple will give you salary. Of course, we have to take care of the maintenance of devotees. So in one sense, that's all right. But we cannot pay anyone to chant for us. We cannot pay anyone to cry to Krishna for us. Our bhajan, we have to do alone. Waking up in the morning, we have to do. Sitting down on one asana and chanting our rounds, we have to do. Our prayers, our puja, we have to do. We cannot hire anybody to do it. We cannot outsource this. We cannot outsource our sadhana. That is the point. We have to walk the road of sadhana alone, ourselves. Like Sanatana Goswami is walking the path to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu alone. No Ishan, no one. Srila Sanatana Goswami marches ahead. He comes to a place where his brother-in-law lives. His name is Shrikant. He is also an employee of the government. And he has got 3 lakh gold coins. That is 300,000 gold coins. Imagine that. Very rich. And as soon as he sees Srila Sanatana Goswami, he recognizes him. But he also understands that he's on the run. So he doesn't show it that he has recognized his brother-in-law. But at night, he goes to Sanatana Goswami, brings him home and says, please stay with me for a few days. Eat nicely, recover your health. Srila Sanatana Goswami said, I will not stay here even for a moment. Just somehow help me cross this area. Tell me which way is Vrindavan. Help me. Go to Vrindavan. Shrikant, the brother-in-law of Sanatana Goswami, gave a very nice woolen blanket, woolen quilt to Sanatana Goswami so that he will not feel cold. At night, it can get really cold in the forest. And he said, I will show you the way. And he showed the way. Sanatana Goswami, accepting that gift of woolen quilt from his brother-in-law Shrikant, went ahead. And after a few days of traveling through snake and tiger and lion and bear infested forests with no food, no exits, no motels, no hotels, no restaurants, no money, nothing. So how do you survive when you are hungry? Well, if you happen to see a river, drink the water. If there happens to be a fruit tree and it is the season for those fruits and there are fruits on the tree, climb the tree or throw a stone and get a fruit and eat. You see some roots or you see some green leafy vegetables growing in the forest, eat it. Survive somehow. Very, very difficult. Very difficult without any food to walk day and night. There are no roads. There are no paths that you can walk comfortably. You are walking through dense forest. There are thorns, there are stones, it's very difficult. Sanatana Goswami did it and somehow the other, avoiding the main road, lest he should be arrested. Avoiding the main road, somehow he reached Varanasi. He was on the way to Vrindavan. Varanasi was not his destination. But when he reached Varanasi, he asked, I want to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I have heard that he has gone to Vrindavan. How do I go to Vrindavan? The people of Varanasi said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Varanasi right now. He's here, right here. He's staying in the house of Chandrasekhar. And they showed him the way. Can you imagine the joy that Srila Sanatana Goswami must have felt? On the way to Vrindavan is Varanasi. And he finds out that at Varanasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is staying there. He has already been to Vrindavan. And he's on the way back to Jagannath Puri. But he's at Varanasi and not coincidentally, by Krishna's mercy, Sanatana Goswami also comes to Varanasi at that same time. Oh, his joy knew no bounds. He was so happy. He immediately came to the house of Chandrasekhar. Oh, I will meet Mahaprabhu again. That same Mahaprabhu who had come to Ramakeli on the pretext of going to Vrindavan, but actually he said he had come to deliver me and my brothers. oh, I'm going to see my Prananath, my Ishtadev, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's inside that house right now. The anticipation, the love, the eagerness, the excitement, the joy, the bliss that Srila Sanatana Goswami was experiencing. But he felt, I am so dirty. I have not taken a bath. I've got this beard. I have grown my beard like the Mlechas, Yavanas. How can I present myself in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Last time we met, I was well dressed. I was well kept, and he initiated me. And if he sees me like this, what will he feel? What will he think? Oh, I am so fallen. I cannot go inside the house. Thinking like this, Sanatana Goswami sat down on the ground, feeling dejected. Ishwara sarvabhutana amritadeshe arjuna tishtati. But Ishwar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is in everyone's heart. He understood Sanatana Goswami's feelings, and he understood that Sanatana Goswami was right outside. Immediately, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, suddenly, he told Chandrasekhar, in whose house he was staying, Chandrasekhar, there is a very great Vaishnava sitting outside. Please call him. Chandrasekhar immediately went out, very excited. A devotee is always happy to meet a devotee. A devotee is always grateful to meet another devotee. Chandrasekhar went out quickly. He looked. He didn't find anyone. He came back, told Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, there is no devotee outside. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled. He said, is there anyone outside? Chandrasekhar said, yes, there is one Darubheshi mendicant. He looks like some Muslim. He has got a beard like a Muslim, like a meat eater. But I don't see a Vaishnava there. There is no one with a Tulsi Kanthimala, no one with a Vaishnava tilak, no one with a bead bag. I don't see any Vaishnava. But yeah, there is a Muslim mendicant there. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled and said, please call him. Chandrasekhar went outside and he told the mendicant that please come inside. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to meet you. As Chandrasekhar brought that mendicant into the courtyard of his house, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not resist, could not hold himself together. He could not wait. He became impatient. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came running in the courtyard. That brings us to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit. So this book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, is actually a summary study of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit. So this is the original Chaitanya Charitamrit. Madhya Lila, chapter 20, entitled Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Srila Sanatana Goswami. Text number 51. Tahare angane dekhi prabhu dhayaila tare alingana kari prema vishtahaya. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Srila Sanatana Goswami in the courtyard, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately went up to him with great haste. Dhaya aila. With great haste, he could not wait. Became impatient. Oh, my Sanatan, my Sanatan. Tare alingana kori prema vishtahila. Became overwhelmed with love. Prema avishthahila. Became overwhelmed with love and alingana kari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced his eternal servant, Sri Sanatana Goswami. Text 52. Prabhu sparshe prema vishta haila sanatana more nachu iha kahe gada gadvachana. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu touched Srila Sanatana Goswami, Prabhu sparshe prema vishta haila Sanatana. Sanatana was also overwhelmed with ecstatic love. Ecstatic love is contagious, my dear friends. But what did Sanatana Goswami said? Gathering himself together, Sanatana Goswami with great difficulty spoke, More na chuniya, Prabhu. Sanatana kahe, More na chuno. Please don't touch me. Please don't touch me, my Lord. Gada gada vachana. His voice was faltering. He was choked with emotion. But he said, please don't touch me. I am very dirty. I am very dirty. Dui jane gala gali rodana apara dekhi Chandra Shekharera haila chamatkara. Chandrasekhar Vaidya. He is a very respectable person. And for him, he has a very formal relationship with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu has different relationship with different devotees, my dear friends. These manjaris, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Radha Bhav. Radha Bhav Jyoti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Radha Bhav. He is in Bhakta Bhav. And the greatest Bhakta is Srimati Radharani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna who came to relish the moods of Srimati Radharani, the devotion of Srimati Radharani. Radhara Pranaya Mahima. He wanted to understand Srimati Radhika's Pranaya Mahima. The greatness of Radharani is Pranaya, love. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mood of Radharani. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Radha Bhav. And Sanatan Goswami is Lavanga Manjari. These Manjaris are her personal maid servants, confidential maid servants, more confidential than the Ashtasakis also. More confidential than the Ashtasakis also. So therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu slaps Rupa Goswami on seeing his composition. Sanatan Goswami's body is covered with pus and blood, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu repeatedly embraces him, taking all the pus and blood, squeezing it on his own body. He sends his own kopin to Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He gives his own kanthimala to Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. These type of loving exchanges, my dear friends, are not to be seen. He gives his own wooden asan to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. These type of loving exchanges are not to be seen with any other devotee, not even with Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Rai. Only the Manjaris. Only the Manjaris. See the intimacy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is slapping Rupa Goswami. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking the pus and blood of Sanatan Goswami on his body. He is giving his own kopin to Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. What is this? What kind of intimacy is this? Unimaginable. Unimaginable. This is as sweet as it gets. Embracing. But Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra and the Maharashtrian Brahman, these three devotees have a formal relationship with Mahaprabhu. For them, he is Acharya. He is Acharya. And Acharya is crying, embracing this person who looks like a Muslim mendicant. Dui jane gala gali rodana apara dekhi Chandra Shekhare rahila chamatkara. Not just rodan, not just crying. Rodana apara. Unlimited. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatan Goswami are crying. Who can imagine what those emotions are, my dear friends? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is sitting like an acharya in the house of Chandrasekhar giving instructions. And suddenly he says, call, a great Vaishnava has come. And then he's suddenly running and embracing this person who looks very unkempt, very dirty. And is bathing him with tears of love. And this mendicant also is crying and bathing Mahaprabhu with his tears. What is this going on? What is this going on? Gala gali. They are embracing each other tightly and crying. What is Sanatan Goswami thinking? What is he feeling? And what is our tender-hearted Mahaprabhu feeling? Oh, my Manjari from Golok Vrindavan, how much difficulty he is going through when he has come in Acharya Swarup, when he has come in this Sadhaka Deha, in Gaura Leela. How much? My poor Manjari, who serves in the Nikunjas of Chintamani Dham, Goloka Vrindavan, was living in the dungeon prison of Nawab Hussain Shah. Oh, ho, ho. Without food and water, he has been running through the forest, wanting to meet me. Hey, my Sanatan, I have been waiting for you. Come. Embracing him, bathing Sanatan Goswami with tears of love. This is bhakti, my dear friends. This is bhakti. The Supreme Lord will never embrace and cry upon embracing a Jnani or a Dhyani or a Karmi. Text number 54. This is bhakti, only bhakti. तबे प्रभु तारा हाथ धरी लैया गेला, पिंडार उपरे आपन पाशे वसाईला. तबे प्रभु श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु तारा हाथ धरी. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu held the hand of Sanatan Goswami and brought him inside. Laiya gela. Pindara upare, he made him sit on a nice elevated place next to him. Apana pashe vasaila. He made him sit right next to him on an elevated seat. Now look at this, my dear friends. Look at this. Look at verse number 55. All of you will go mad. This is Mahaprabhu. This is our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhakta Vatsal. Shri haste karena tara anga sammarjana, teho kahe more prabhu nakara sparshana. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought Sanatan Goswami inside, holding his hand. He brought him inside. My dear Sanatan, come, sit. Made him sit on his own seat and sitting next to him with his own loving hands. Ajanulambita bhujau kanakavadhatau sankirtanai kapitarau kamalayataksau vishwambharau dvijavarau yugadharma palau vande jagat priyakarau karunaavatarau. With his long arms, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, those arms which are always eager to embrace the devotees. Our Bhakti Sangha group, the profile picture is Shri Krishna embracing Shri Gopakumar. Who wrote that Shastra? It is our Sanatan Goswami. How he can write Krishna is embracing Gopakumar after Gopakumar has traveled through all the different planetary systems? And how Krishna is embracing Gopakumar? How can Sanatan Goswami describe that, my dear friends? It is from practical experience. He has experienced that embrace from Mahaprabhu. That is why he writes. That is the difference between our writing and Acharya Vani. When Acharyas write, it is realized knowledge. When we write, it is at best our imagination. Hare Krishna. Sanatan Goswami is describing the embrace that Gopakumar received from Shri Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. He has experienced that embrace, my dear friends. Teho kahe more Prabhu nakara sparshana. What is Mahaprabhu doing? Shri haste karena tara anga sammarjana. With his own loving hands, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with his komal, his soft tarakamal, his lotus hands, he is doing anga sammarjana. Sanatan Goswami's body was covered with dust and dirt, and Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is clearing, dusting off his body, making him nice and clean. Oh, my dear child, oh, my dear Sanatan, how are you? This is Bhakta Vatsal. Like a cow licking a calf out of love. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with his own loving hands, he is cleansing the body, sammarjana, cleansing the body of Sanatan, who had walked through forests and dirty places. What is Sanatan Goswami pleading? He is pleading the Lord. Oh, my Lord, don't touch me, don't touch me. Nakara sparshana, nakara sparshana. But he is doing anga sammarjana, he is cleaning. There is so much I want to read, my dear friend, but we are running out of time. Anyway, I want to read one verse at least. I wanted to read all these verses, but I will at least read this one verse. This is the crest jewel verse. And Srila Prabhupada, this verse is so beautiful that Srila Prabhupada even writes this verse, quotes it as it is in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the 2nd chapter. Please chant with me, all of you. Akshno phalam tva drishadarshanam hi tano phalam tva drishagatra sangha jivha phalam tva drishakirtanam hi sudurlabha bhagavata hi loke. Akshno phalam tva drisha darshanam hi. What is the perfection of having akshno? Akshno means eyes. What is the perfection of the eyes? Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling Sanatan Goswami. Sanatan Goswami is saying, don't touch me. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, akshno phalam twadrisha darshanam hi. The perfection of my eyes, Sanatan, is to see you. to have your darshan, Sanatan. I love you. Tano phalam twadrisha gatra sangaha. And tano means my body. What is the tano phalam? What is the perfection of my body? Twadrisha gatra sangaha. To touch your body. You are saying, don't touch me. Hey Sanatan, to touch your body is the perfection of my body. Jivha phalam twadrisha kirtanam hi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, the perfection of my jivha, the perfection of my tongue is twadrisha kirtanam. To sing your kirti, to sing your glories, to glorify you is the perfection of my tongue. Sudurlabha bhagavata hi loke. You are a Mahabhagavat, Sanatan, and a Mahabhagavat like you is very, very rare. Sudurlabha. Akshno phalam twadrisha darshanam hi tano phalam twadrisha gatra sangaha jivha phalam twadrisha kirtanam hi sudurlabha bhagavata hi loke. This is a quote from Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is quoting it, and it appears in Chaitanya Charitamrita, verse of what a grace jewel of verses. Whenever we meet a great devotee, whenever we offer obeisances to a Mahabhagavat Vaishnava, we can chant this verse. Aha. Akshno phalam twadrisha darshanam hi tano phalam twadrisha gatra sangaha. Touching your lotus feet. Jivha phalam twadrisha kirtanam hi sudurlabha bhagavata hi loke. This is very beautiful, my dear friends. Please memorize this verse and let this verse be the take-home message for today's discussion, from today's reading. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorified Sanatana Goswami. And then he called Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra and introduced Sanatana Goswami to them. This is Sanatana. He is qualified to deliver the whole world. Brahmanda tarite shakti dhare jane jane. Brahmanda tarite shakti dhare jane jane. Mahaprabhu's Priyajan, Mahaprabhu's Parshads, each of them have the Shakti, have the strength to deliver a whole Brahmanda. Whole Brahmanda. That is the power. What is impossible for a Vaishnava Acharya? What is impossible for a Vaishnava Acharya? Oh hey Vaishnava Thakura, Doyara Sagara, Edase Koruna Kori. Oh Vaishnava Thakur, please have mercy on me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced Sanatana Goswami to Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar. Tapan Mishra said, as long as you are in Varanasi, you please come and stay with me and take prasadam in my house. Sanatana Goswami says, no, I'm a mendicant, I will live by Madhukari. Like a honey bee takes honey from different flowers. Doesn't sit in one flower and suck all the honey of that flower. No, little bit here, little bit here, little bit. One roti here, one roti there, little sabji here. That's it. Like that. Madhukari. I will live by Madhukari. I will not live on just one household. Little bit I'll take. So I'm not burden on anybody. Tapan Mishra offered nice clothes to Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami refused. Chandrasekhar offered nice clothes. Sanatana Goswami said, Chandrasekhar, if you want to give me something, give me one of your old torn dhotis. An old dhoti was given to Sanatana Goswami because he was wearing the clothes of a Muslim prisoner. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, please take him for a bath in the Ganga, give him Ganga Snan, shave him up. Mahaprabhu doesn't appreciate so much devotees growing beards and mustaches and long hair also. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this chapter itself, that those who want to become serious Krishna conscious devotees must shave, follow in the footsteps of Sri Sanatana Goswami. Now that doesn't mean that if a Vaishnava is growing the beard during Chaturmas or we judge them. No. Never. We should never do that. These instructions are meant for us, not for us to judge others. We are nobody to judge. We have to look at ourselves. We have to judge ourselves. We have to compete with ourselves, not others. Hare Krishna. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him to shave up and take a bath in Ganga and wear a clean, simple clothes. So he took a torn dhoti of Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar and tore it into pieces. He made kopins, 2 kopins and 2 outer cloths. Kopin is underwear. It's a strip of cloth. You tie it like an underwear, like a langot, and then outer cloth. You just wrap like a dhoti. So from one dhoti, he made 4 pieces of clothes, 2 kopins and 2 outer cloths. And Mahaprabhu was very, very happy seeing this renunciation of Sanatana Goswami. Mahaprabhu Bhaktagana Vairagya Pradhan. Mahaprabhu feels very happy when he sees his devotees following austerities, living a simple life of tapasya. Tapan Mishra invited Mahaprabhu for prasad. Mahaprabhu said, Sanatana Goswami, you also come. Sanatana Goswami went. He had just taken his bath. Mahaprabhu said, sit with me. And he told Tapan Mishra, serve plates to both of us. Serve prasadam to both of us. But Tapan Mishra understood the heart of Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami was looking down, embarrassed. Tapan Mishra told Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, you eat first. Sanatana Goswami has some work to do. I will feed him later. Mahaprabhu said, all right. Mahaprabhu was served prasadam. Mahaprabhu ate. And whatever remnants were there in Mahaprabhu's plate, after Mahaprabhu left, Tapan Mishra very lovingly gave the Mahaprasad of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to our Sanatana Goswami, who was patiently waiting. Sanatana Goswami lived by doing madhukari, and he wore very simple clothes, just a kopin and an outer cloth. But his upper body was still covered by the woolen blanket, woolen quilt given by his brother-in-law, Shrikant. And every time Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would meet Sanatana Goswami, he would keep staring at that chadar because it was very opulent. It was from a multi-millionaire brother-in-law. Sanatana Goswami immediately understood the indication of Mahaprabhu. Immediately he went to the Ganga Ghat. Now this is Yukta Vairagya. It's not that Phalgu Vairagya. Sanatana Goswami took that nice quilt and threw it in the garbage. No, that is waste because someone can use it. We are not supposed to use it because we have supposed to become renounced, but that doesn't mean others cannot use it. Mahaprabhu went, Sanatana Goswami understood the indication of Mahaprabhu and went to Ganga Ghat. There he met a Bengali fellow who was washing his torn old quilt. He had washed it and put it for drying. Srila Sanatana Goswami went to that Bengali traveler and said, Baba, please accept my quilt and please in exchange give me your old quilt. The Bengali mendicant thought that Sanatana Goswami is joking with him, is being sarcastic with him. He says, you're a sadhu, Sanatana Goswami. You should not make fun of others like this. Sanatana Goswami said, I'm not making fun. I'm serious. Please. I'm telling you the truth. Take this quilt and let me use your old one. The Bengali fellow was only too happy. This was a very good exchange. He took the expensive, nice, brand new quilt and gave his torn one, old one to Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami took that chadar and came before Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu was very happy now. Mahaprabhu said, why should Krishna let you have one last bit of material attachment? No. Krishna has saved you from Maharaurava hell, from the hell where sense gratifiers, meat eaters go. Krishna has rescued you from the association of meat eaters. Krishna has rescued you from materialistic way of life. Krishna has been very merciful to you. And now Krishna has taken away your last bit of material enjoyment also, that expensive quilt. Now you're completely ready. Sanatana Goswami fell at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu and said, Mahaprabhu, I don't know who I am. I don't know what is the purpose of life. Please, I surrender to you. Please instruct me. Please instruct me. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, seeing that Sanatana Goswami is such a fit candidate. Actually, Mahaprabhu says, Sanatana Goswami, you know everything. But for Jana Kalyan, I will speak. And what Mahaprabhu spoke, Sanatana Goswami heard, Tapan Mishra heard, Chandrasekhar heard, Maharashtra Brahmin heard, and Tapan Mishra's son Raghunath Bhatta Goswami also heard. They were all hearing along with Sanatana Goswami, and Mahaprabhu instructed them. Sanatana Goswami is teaching us through this pastime that if we want to make spiritual advancement, we have to be serious. Sanatana Goswami could have stayed in the house of Tapan Mishra. He had an offer. Sanatana Goswami could have accepted the clothes that were given to him by Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar. It was a nice free gift. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later on introduced Sanatana Goswami to the Maharashtrian Brahmin also. And the Maharashtrian Brahmin also offered daily prasad. He said, Sanatana Goswami, as long as you are in Varanasi, come to my house and take prasad. So many offers are there. Sanatana Goswami declined. He said, I will do Madhukari. Srila Sanatana Goswami's teaching us that we should never sit on Mount Mainak. What is Mount Mainak? It is a mountain that came from the Samudra, from the ocean, when Hanumanji was crossing the ocean. The first obstacle, Mainak mountain. Hanumanji just touched it, thanked, and Hare, Jai Shri Ram. So similarly, when temptations come in our life, we have to say Jai Shri Radhe, and we have to keep moving. We should not accept. We have to make more and more spiritual advancement. See how sequentially, Kramena, step by step, Sanatana Goswami increased his renunciation, increased his austerities, increased his dedication and devotion, and cut off his material, trimmed away, chiseled away all that was material in his life. Completely spiritual. That is the way of Acharyas. That is the way of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. That is the way of Mahaprabhu's followers, my dear friends. We are not here to chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles, and enjoy. Just do these 2 things. Chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles, do some service, participate in some festivals, give some donation once a year on Janmashtami, and I'm going back home, back to Godhead. That is not the way of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. The way of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is what our Acharyas are teaching us. And Acharyas are teaching us uncompromising, pure devotional service. Until the last bit of material attachment is gone, we have to keep going. And even after that, we have to keep going, because after that, real bhakti starts. After that, real bhakti starts. We are on the stage of sadhana bhakti. We have to reach Raganuga bhakti, then bhava bhakti, then prema bhakti. Tatha prema bhaktim swakame prayacha namokshe graho me sti damodareha. If we want to bind Damodar with our love, we need love. He is bound by love. Love means prema bhakti. So first we are at the star of Vaidhi bhakti right now. We have to wake up, my dear friends. We have to understand the diagnosis, the ground reality where we are, and take Krishna consciousness very seriously. Be in the association of devotees who share that fire and make progress, and compete with ourselves and give up one by one our material attachments and make more and more progress in Krishna consciousness. Increase our Nam Bhajan, increase our Swadhyay, increase our Vaishnav Seva. We have to endeavor to increase our humility in order to bind Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with our love. Then Mahaprabhu will embrace us. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Such a beautiful, beautiful class, Prabhuji. Very nice. It was like hearing like a story in between. Nice lessons to learn in our spiritual life. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Devotees can raise their hands if they have question. I see Anuradha Mataji raised her hand. Please go ahead, Mataji. I will give you the permission. Please go ahead, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Wonderful, wonderful. So many lessons. And actually, you have answered partially to my question, because when I was reading and when you gave the details, there were so many, not speaking the truth, which is like breaking the moral, mundane moral. But yeah, they were for spiritual benefit and spiritual advancement. So that part I get. Prabhuji, I'm talking for only, this question is only for me because I'm asking for a particular reason. And thing is like, when for our own spiritual benefit, can we lie to Vaishnavas? Lying to others is one thing, but lying to Vaishnava is something which I'm a little doubtful about, but not to cheat anybody, not for anything, for our own spiritual benefit.
The only time we may do so is to hide our bhajan.
Okay.
The only time we may do so is to hide our bhajan. Because bhajan is not to be shared with Vaishnavas. Apanera bhajan katha na kahibe yatha tatha. So bhajan is to be done behind closed doors. And we may lie as far as the details of bhajan are concerned if we are being asked. First of all, devotee should not ask how many rounds you're chanting and what you're doing for Kartik and this and that. Generally, we should not ask these questions because this is private. But if some devotees are asking and they want to know, we are supposed to hide our bhajan. We are not supposed to reveal our bhajan. If we reveal our bhajan, we will fall down. We will have difficulty. So that is the only time when we can lie.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhu. So my situation is like my son, he goes in a Gurukul and he brings book. His teachers are mostly, of course, the teachers are the Vaishnavis. And he brings books which are not, even materially, sometimes I find them not to be read. And his teacher gives him the, work to read them. And I usually guard what my son reads. So I tell you cannot read it. And then he says that, oh, my teacher asked me and she will ask me, did I complete the book? And I'm like, I don't want to teach my son that lie to a Vaishnavi or Vaishnava. And at the same time, I don't want him to read the book. So I don't know if it is a part of his bhajan or our bhajan, but this is a situation, Prabhu. So it is
the teacher is a devotee?
Yes, it's a Gurukul, Prabhu. It's a ISKCON Gurukul.
Okay, so Mate, this is a question for one's Shiksha Guru. Okay. You need to discuss this with your spiritual superior because I don't know you.
Yes, definitely.
So exactly, this is a question that needs more details. What is the book? How is your child? What is the age and all those things. So this is a good question for one's Shiksha Guru.
Definitely. Thank you so much still. Yeah, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for such a very, very beautiful class. Thank you so much for all the meditation, especially about, gradually trying to give up unnecessary material attractions or unnecessary material attachments that are stopping us from progressing. I especially like the life lessons that you told from Ishan's story. I never... when you said that, it just stopped him from actually getting an audience with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I was thinking, what a big loss, right? So definitely, Prabhu, something to take home. Thank you so much for giving this in such a beautiful fashion. Very, very beautiful, thought-provoking class, Prabhu. Always grateful to you for your very valuable association. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Priti Vilasani Mataji. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. You are the one who gave me this opportunity to speak. So thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Prabhupada. All glories to you, Prabhu. Very, very beautiful, wonderful session. And especially as you narrated the whole pastime and along with so many wonderful life lessons. So much to take home for today. I have one question. Maybe I don't sound good for that question, but, like you said about Ishan was carrying those gold coins. Yes, it was his fault and, why he was not supposed to carry, why he was carrying. But I just want to know whether the landlord who was helping Mahaprabhu, who told him that you can stay overnight and then I'll give you some grains, you can cook your bhoga, prasadam, whatever. So he did it because he knew that Mahaprabhu is having those 8 gold coins, or if the astrologer would have told that, he's not carrying any gold coins, then also he would have helped. And if not, then those gold coins actually gave the shelter for one whole night. I don't know, I may be critical sounding, but I want to know, Prabhu, about this.
Yeah. So even if the gold coins were helpful to Sanatana Goswami, those gold coins are provided by Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate giver, not Ishan. So that is one thing. And what really matters is what was Ishan's motivation. Ishan's motivation was to steal, right? So Krishna sees what is the motive. Ishan's motive was to steal. But Krishna is so expert that he utilized those coins in the service of Sanatana Goswami and protected Sanatana Goswami also. But Ishan got punished in a way. He lost his service to Srila Sanatana Goswami. He lost the opportunity to meet Mahaprabhu, which is the perfection of one's life. After so many billions of lifetimes in this material world, one may get a chance to come face to face with Mahaprabhu. And he lost that opportunity because of his motivation. His motivation was to steal from Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami gave him a chance, asked him, but he lied again. He said, I have 7 gold coins. So he got punished for his ill motives. As far as the help that Sanatana Goswami got because of those gold coins is concerned, that is coming from Krishna. For example, if we are traveling somewhere, we are passing through some city, and there happens to be a devotee there, and someone connects us with that devotee, that you can stay with this devotee, so you will get prasad, you will be comfortable. So those devotees are helping us, yes, for sure. The devotees are helping us. But factually, if we see who is helping us, who is arranging those devotees, it is Krishna. So those gold coins helping Sanatana Goswami, the credit goes to Mahaprabhu, not to Ishan. Ishan only gets credit or discredit for his intentions, and his intentions were wrong. Is that helpful, Kirtita Sundari Mataji?
Of course, Prabhu. That makes total sense. And yes, Ishan loss was a huge loss for him because he lost this opportunity to meet Mahaprabhu.
He came so close.
So close, seriously. And even if not Mahaprabhu, I would say, like, even getting the association of Sanatana Goswami was not less, seriously. So
and he displeased Sanatana Goswami.
Yeah,
Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that Sanatana Goswami got angry at him. So why are you carrying coins? You're carrying a death knell. You're carrying death with you. Sanatana Goswami chastises him. So he actually put Sanatana Goswami's life in danger.
Exactly. Yeah, that's also one way to look at it. Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. So much to learn, so much, so much to go through. Yeah.
Did you like that verse, Mataji?
Of course, Prabhu.
Yeah.
I literally
so beautiful. The perfection of eyes, perfection of tongue, perfection of body.
Beautiful words. Yeah. It looks like we have read the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, but now it looks like that no, so many beautiful gems, jewels have been missed out.
Hare Krishna.
It's not a one-time thing, that we are done with it. It's an ongoing process. Every day we should relish this Chaitanya Charitamrita and Bhagavatam.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just a follow-up question. So when Ishan was carrying that remaining 1 gold coin, he was doing it for the sake of Sanatana Goswami, meaning because he felt that he had to serve Sanatana Goswami in some way, like maybe for Sanatana Goswami's maintenance or maybe for his food or something like that. Or was the intention of Ishan that 1 gold coin was for himself? Because ultimately, the gold coin as such belonged to Sanatana Goswami, right? So the internal intention of Ishan was for the service of Sanatana Goswami, or just that he can rob that money? What was that?
From Chaitanya Charitamrita, it appears clearly that it was to keep the money for himself. Because if it was for the service of Sanatana Goswami, when Sanatana Goswami asked him, how much coins do you have, give me? He would have given everything. That, Master, this is all yours. I was carrying it for your service. Here are 8 coins, take. But even then he had that greed. He held back 1 coin for himself. He didn't reveal how much he had. He revealed only 7 when he had 8. So it seems that it was for himself.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because, I was also thinking of a parallel story of this Kurish when he was going to see. Yeah, because that time the wife's intention was purely for the service of her husband, the silver pot that she was carrying. So that is justified, right, Prabhu? So that's why I asked this question.
Yeah. But when Kurish said that throw away the plate, she threw away. She didn't keep a spoon.
Right.
Golden spoon.
Right. I get it. Okay.
So, Hare Krishna.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, All Praise to Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for sweet class. I was just having some thoughts, if I could share them.
Yes, please.
One thing I was thinking when you said how Hanuman just touched Mainaka and then went on. I was just thinking that too. I was thinking, even it's very, very difficult to overcome something, overcome these kinds of obstacles, which we think are for our benefit sometimes. But I was just thinking that if we just acknowledge that it's there and say, okay, yes, I want this. Acknowledge to ourselves that we really do want it internally, but we know it's not for our benefit, that it's going to be a hindrance. It seems like, to me, it's a little bit easier to move on. You just kind of like, it's like going window shopping. You go, you can't buy anything, but you just kind of walk through the store and you get some kind of satisfaction. Okay, I saw everything. I don't need anything. And then you leave. So I was just thinking about that, because for me, it's very, very difficult. I will tell you quite honestly when these temptations come. And then I was thinking in the same way, when we're chanting and we get these thoughts that come, and, instead of fighting the thought, somebody had told me, just, acknowledge the thought, let it go, and then continue chanting. So then I'm not fighting so much with it. And eventually, I'm hoping, and it has, thoughts get less and less in between, disturbing our Krishna japa. So japam. So I don't know if that's, if that's good or not, but that just seems an interesting realization for me. So I thank you very much for that. And as Ishan was getting so many chances, right? We are also given so many chances by the Lord, and and we just have to keep, saying no, thank you, no, thank you. Krishna keeps wanting to get us close, so we just got to say no, thank you to that. I'm in this direction. So thank you so much, Prabhu. I got a lot of lessons myself. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Yes, thank you. Thank you to you. I agree with what you said. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Next, Ishwari Radha Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my respectful obeisances. All glory to Prabhupada. Thank you for sharing this wonderful, wonderful pastime. I think I have to read it again and again to get other lessons. But I like one point that I heard, that you said that one should be critical of oneself, not others. When we get instruction from, Vaishnavas, we don't really apply it to anybody else, just for ourselves. Isn't that right?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you.
Once my spiritual master told us that if we judge others, we are taking the position of Krishna, because only Paramatma has the right to judge others.
Right. Yeah, it's a very important point. I learned that after like a long, long time, because practicing Krishna consciousness, you feel like, when others see you, you should, I guess, live by that example, not trying to tell them anything, So I really like that. I said, okay, I'm going to try to not say anything, just live like that.
Yeah, we have to compete with ourselves. Try to better ourselves.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
That's awesome.
Sukhsatai Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams. Thanks for the beautiful class, Prabhuji. I was just contemplating on how like a devotee or Vaishnava must not give importance to appearances, and how you shared the pastime of how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually embraced Sanatana Goswami in spite of, his travel and his unkempt looks. Prabhuji, this is my own fault, and I'm trying to rectify. For some reason, from young age, if I see something unclean or, somebody unclean, I kind of, I'm not able to accept food from them, or, things like that. So even when we went to Jagannath Puri, the Panda was telling that in Puri there is there's no jhuta, you can just eat, everybody eats everybody's maha, but the thought itself was kind of something not very palatable to me. So how do I get over these kind of bodily, limitations that I have? I always try to chant the Drishte Svabhava Janite Shloka, reminding myself that this is an instruction. But if I see somebody unclean, it just puts me off. I'm not sure what I can do about that, Prabhuji. Can you please advise me, Prabhuji? Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Not that I'm super clean or anything, but it's just my mental makeup.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for such a candid thought and point that you brought up. See, we were talking about, Vaneshwari Lakshmi Mataji was talking about Hanumanji. And there are two personalities who are very strong in Ramayana. There is Vali and there is Hanuman. Both were strong enough to defeat Ravan. Hanumanji also could have defeated Ravan by himself, and Vali also had defeated Ravan by himself in a one-on-one fight. Vali's forte was his strength, but Vali's nemesis also was his strength, because he became proud of his strength, you see. Whereas Hanumanji remained humble. So Hanumanji could use his forte, which was his strength, in the service of Lord Ramachandra in a very effective way. Similarly, being clean, and cleanliness is next to godliness. In fact, Srila Prabhupada said that Shaucham, being suchi, being clean, is a essential part of deity worship, essential part of being a devotee, being punctual and being clean. So a preference for cleanliness, being suchi, that is one of the qualities of a Brahman. That is one of the divine qualities, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So it is good to be pure, to be suchi, to be clean. But we have to also understand what is real cleanliness. Cleanliness is not just being sterile or being disinfected. On a material plane, yes, that is cleanliness. But then what is real cleanliness? What is real cleanliness? So real cleanliness is being close to Krishna, because Krishna is Pavitra. Param Brahma Param Dham Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashwatam Divyam Adidevam Majam Vibhum. Arjun glorifies Krishna as Pavitra in Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter. So real cleanliness means being Krishna conscious. Real cleanliness means being close to Krishna. That is real cleanliness. Krishna is Pavitra. So Krishna Prasad is also Pavitra. So being clean and having a preference for cleanliness is a good quality. It's a godly quality. It's a divine quality. But we have to be careful, because if we are not able to discriminate what is real cleanliness, then that preference for cleanliness can become our nemesis, can become the cause of our downfall also, like in the case of Vali. So we have to be careful. One has to discriminate what is real cleanliness and have a preference for that which is really clean. Now, how to get over that mental barrier, the preconceptions that we have about what is clean, what is unclean. Of course, cleanliness is good, but Krishna is Pavitra. That we have to understand. Krishna is beyond clean. Krishna is the cleanest. Krishna is transcendently clean. Krishna is Pavitra. Krishna is pure. Not just clean. Krishna is pure. He is purest of the pure. And how to realize that? We have to pray for purification. We have to pray for purification, and we have to pray for realization. Like Srila Rupa Goswami writes in Nectar of Instruction that even if there is budbudi, there is mud and bubbles, foam and dirt in the holy river of Ganga or Yamuna, as it happens in the rainy season, we don't give up taking bath in that muddy water. So because we understand that it's not just about cleanliness, it's about purity. Ganga may not appear clean, Yamuna may not appear clean, but it is pure. And if we have to choose between cleanliness and purity, we go to purity, spiritual purity. So how to get that realization? That takes purification, and we have to pray for purification. Cheto darpana marjanam. When the jaundice is gone, then we can taste the purity of sweetness, the purity of sugarcane juice. There are sadhus in Vrindavan, Mataji. Every day, twice a day, 3 times a day, even today, they take bath in the Yamuna. They have taken a vow never to leave Vrindavan. And they put tilak with Yamuna Raj, with Vraj Raj. They smear their bodies with Vraj Raj. They have such dham nishtha. Even though we know from Delhi, all the pollutants and chemicals are dumped into the holy river Yamuna. But these sadhus have such nishtha that they take bath every day in Yamuna. Twice a day, thrice a day. And they never leave the banks of Yamuna, even today. So how to get that nishtha? We have to pray for purification. And if we sincerely pray, then we will get it. Is that helpful, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Perhaps I need more purification. That's the message I'm getting. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. But I also, on the last note, which you just mentioned, I also remember like some senior devotees, because you mentioned now, Prabhu, it just came to my mind that they warn you against, doing some things in the river Yamuna, like because they've heard like some devotees have fallen sick and things like that, Prabhuji. So
right. So yes, on for our level, that is all right. But what I'm saying is there are sadhus who drink Yamuna water, who drink Radhakund water, who bathe there, and they don't get dysentery. They don't get diarrhea. And we know from our scriptures, Shripad Ramanujacharya, our Priti Vilasini Mataji was mentioning Shripad Ramanujacharya's disciple Kuresh. Shripad Ramanujacharya was fed poisoned Charnamrit by Yadav Prakash. He was very envious of him. And Shripad Ramanujacharya drank it and nothing happened. So it's a matter of faith. It's a matter of purification. So yes, we see all these layers of Maya on the Dham. And because we are operating on that level, we have to acknowledge it. But at the same time, we have to pray to Krishna that I know Krishna, this is not the Vrindavan that Srila Narottam Das Thakur and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur were visualizing when they were doing their bhajan in Vrindavan. This is not the Dham. This is not the Dham that the Acharyas see. So please give me those eyes where I can see the real Dham. Please reveal yourself to me. Please purify me. So we have to pray like that. And then Krishna will purify us. Is that okay, Mataji?
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you so much. I think I do have some ways to go on that, but yeah, I'll try to make an effort.
Me too. Me too. I have more, much more to go on this. But thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Next we have Gaurangi Mataji. Please go ahead. Mataji, Gaurangi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Oh,
Krishna.
it's so beautiful to hear your singing. You need to make a CD if you haven't already. Anyway, I also really appreciated, your instruction that we should lie about our bhajan, because it's like a pet peeve of mine that people ask, devotees ask each other, how many rounds you're chanting. I think that is such a private thing, so I was so happy to hear you say that it is indeed a private thing, This one question I have is actually a follow-up on this purity versus cleanliness issue. It's an eternal question of mine, actually, to try to understand the distinction between purity and cleanliness. So, for example, when we see that when we use paraphernalia in deity worship, just putting a spot of water on an item is enough to purify it. So when we do that, when we just sprinkle a dab of water on paraphernalia used in deity worship, that purifies it. But I'm not so well understanding how that is distinct from, cleaning, making the item free of, material dirt. Basically, if you could just expand on what it means for something to be pure versus just clean.
To use anything as paraphernalia, as an article for deity worship, it has to be clean. It has to be materially clean. It should be washed. It should be clean. Everything should be clean in deity worship. But when it is clean, it is materially clean. It is still not pure, and it cannot be used in Krishna service. Then that clean object, we make it pure by chanting mantras, by doing achaman, or by sprinkling purified water, Ganga Jal, because we make the water Ganga Jal. Gange cha Yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalasmin Sannidhim Kuru. So that purified water we sprinkle on articles and we make them pure. We make ourselves pure, Bhuta Shuddhi, by chanting different mantras, Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalayor Dasa Dasa Anudasaha, and chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, chanting Apavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastagatu, like that. We purify ourselves by chanting Harinam. Yasmare Pundarikaksha Sabhaya Bantara Suchi. But the thing should be clean. And just being clean is not enough. You have to make them pure by following the vidhi of deity worship. Now, it is not that you bring something, we bring something dirty and then just chant the purifying mantras and use it. No, it has to be clean. Just like when we come to Krishna consciousness, take our examples. So a person is eating meat, having illicit relationships, drinking intoxicants, and gambling. So even materially, such a person is dirty. Even materially, someone who is drinking and gambling and intoxicating is even materially is dirty. Someone who is having illicit relationships is even medically dirty, very dirty. Such a person is dirty. So how do you make them clean? 4 regulative principles. Chant 16, no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. So they become clean. They come to the platform of goodness. So they become clean. But that is not spiritual. That is not pure. They are still not purified. They are clean, but they are not purified. So then how to become purified? By eating Krishna Prasad, by chanting Hare Krishna. Sevon mukhe hi jivahado. By chanting Hare Krishna, by eating Krishna Prasad, by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, then we become purified. So just like we, from dirty we become clean, and from clean we become pure. Similarly, articles of deity worship, materially they have to become clean. They may be dirty. You wash them, rinse them, scrub them, make them clean. And then with the mantras and with the proper vidhi for deity worship, Archana vidhi, we make them pure and then use them in the service of Krishna. So that is the difference between being clean and being pure. Is that okay, Mataji?
Okay, so I need to follow. So making something pure then, it sounds like we are using mantras to spiritualize the items. Is that a fair synonym?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and then also you said that a person who is gambling and using intoxicants, those people are not even materially clean. I mean, my conception of clean is that, you've used soap and water, to clean your body or whatever. So
no, but see, if someone is having illicit relationships, they have syphilis, they have chlamydia, they have gonorrhea, they have HIV. How can that get washed away with soap and water?
One, I intentionally left out that one because I think that one is more obvious. I specifically asked about the gambling and the intoxication, meat eating. Let's say you know, I've washed my face and hands before sitting down to my steak dinner, right? So a person might ask, you know, I've come to the dinner table in a clean condition. How am I not clean? By, you know, by smoking a cigarette or doing any, you know, by eating that dinner or by going to the casino. How is that unclean?
I'll give you one example. I had once gone to a place for a job interview. This was in 2014. So the person who called me for the job interview, they paid for my ticket and a rental car. So I took a rental car and there was another candidate with me. And we shared the car and he was a smoker. As soon as we got out of the airplane, he started smoking. So he smoked in the car. And then we had the interview. Of course, I told him that I cannot tolerate the smoke. So he smoked a little and then he threw the cigarette, got into the car. In the car, he was not smoking, but he just smoked a cigarette and he sat in the car. We drove around 30 minutes. Both of us had our interview. And somehow, after the interview, the secretary of the physician who interviewed me, she needed a ride because she had parked her car somewhere else in some other building in the campus. So she said, hey, can you give me a ride in your car? And this person who came with me, who had smoked, he had another ride, so he went. So it was this secretary and myself. And we sat in the car. And we were talking about, somehow she saw my Kantimala and we started talking about Krishna consciousness. And I was talking about the 4 regulative principles and chanting. And she sits in my car.
I know what's
she said, she could not believe that I don't smoke. She said, no, you smoked.
Mm-hmm,
it is unmistakable. You smoked. So my association with a smoker spoiled my reputation. So that's why they're dirty.
No. That one I should have made you leave that one out too, because I know that the smoking thing is like, my God, you know, a person could have been in your house and left, you know, an hour ago, and their presence is still there because of their smoke. But okay, so forget that one too. Because that one also, that one is apparent. But, you know, how about meat eating? And especially gambling.
Yeah. See, gambling, as a physician, when we did our behavioral health rotations, we used to sit through the meetings of Gamblers Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. And these people who gamble, many of them, they destroy their families. They file for bankruptcy, their families are destroyed. They end up putting their families through so much harm, so much trouble. So is that good? Even morally, even materially, is that something nice? So it's a dirty habit to gamble. You're basically just ruining your life with gambling. So even materially, it is not good. What is the fourth one?
Okay, so I guess meat eating would be obvious because of the violence, right?
Yeah, violence and just not good.
Yeah.
It causes colon cancer. Red meat causes colon cancer. So.
Okay, so I guess you can expand your definition of clean to mean, you know, what is harmful. Unclean. Unclean meaning harmful.
Yeah, and if you allow a person eating meat in your kitchen, and imagine they're cleaning shrimp in your sink, is that clean?
Oh no, of course not.
So yeah, it's just dirty, the whole thing. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Next we have Vrinda Mataji. Please go ahead, Vrinda Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for this nectarine class on the life of Sanatana Goswami. Prabhuji, you have time, right? I have 2 questions.
Yes.
So, Prabhuji, there is this term called Purascharya, which is given in the chapter. Can you
five aspects, yeah.
Yeah, can you please explain a little bit about it?
So when Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they were initiated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they were asked to continue working for Nawab Hussain Shah for some time until the right time came when they could leave everything and join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his mission. So Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatan Goswami, they employed some brahmanas, qualified brahmanas, to perform this Purascharya ritual. It's a Vedic ritual where you invite brahmanas and you have a fire sacrifice, you offer articles to forefathers, to the demigods, and you distribute prasad to the brahmanas. So there are 5 things in that. So that is done with the intention of getting relief from the material and materialistic job, and to be able to go and join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his mission. So this was done, and this is based on the Vedic Shastras, and Srila Sanatan Goswami actually has included this process, this vidhi, even in his Hari Bhakti Vilas. So this may not be directly Krishna Bhakti, this Purascharya process, offering these 5 articles, doing yajna and offering prasad to the brahmanas and charity and all those things. But it is indirect Krishna consciousness, because it was being done for a Krishna conscious purpose, to get relief from that mundane job and to be able to take sannyas and join Mahaprabhu. So they were invoking the blessings of the forefathers, they were invoking the blessings of the devatas, so like that. So it may not be direct Krishna consciousness, but it is indirect Krishna consciousness. Just like the gopis, they also worshipped Katyayani Devi, who is Durga Devi. Just like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maiya, they also went and worshipped Lord Shiva on Shivratri. That night when the python came and tried to swallow Nanda Maharaj, they had gone to worship Lord Shiva. It was Shivratri night. So they are worshipping, but it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam and the commentaries that why was Nanda Maharaj worshipping Lord Shiva that night on Shivratri? To pray to Lord Shiva that may I always have association of Krishna, and may Krishna have a long healthy life. May no troubles come upon Krishna. And why were the young gopis worshipping Katyayani Devi? The Katyayani Vrat will begin now after Kartik in few days. Why were they doing? Because they wanted Krishna as their husband. That was their exclusive prayer. So what was the prayer of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami when they were doing Purascharya? That we want to become exclusive sold out servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So therefore it is bona fide. Is that okay, Vrinda Mataji?
So although it is not pure Krishna Bhakti, it is something which will get us close to Krishna, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So is it like, is it still followed, Prabhuji, to come out of the material contamination, attachment, or it is just purely for them? How is it actually?
For us, the Purascharya is Diksha. When we take any section, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, Diksha kale bhakta kare atma samarpan. Sei kale Krishna kare tare atma sam. At the time of Diksha, we completely atma samarpan. We completely manasa deha geha jo kichu mor arpilu tuapade nanda kishor. So at that time we are supposed to become completely Krishna conscious. So for us, that samskar is Diksha.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. And my second question is about manjaris. I want to know how many manjaris are there in total in spiritual world. Is there a specific number or they are unlimited?
And they are unlimited. There are 8 principal Ashtamanjaris, just like Ashtasakis, but there are unlimited manjaris. Unlimited.
Okay. And so these 6 manjaris are from one of those 8 manjaris, prime ones?
Yes. Yes. And Loknath Goswami and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami are the other 2, total 8.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. That's awesome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Again, Sari Mataji and Anuradha Mataji has question. Do you have time, Prabhuji? It's already 11:51 for me.
Prabhuji, as long as it's okay with you, I have time today.
Okay, then.
I'm off today, so yes.
Okay, so Sari Mataji, please go ahead,
Mataji. Sorry, Prabhu, I'm coming back again on this topic. Just quickly, Prabhuji, you just mentioned that, how would you tolerate somebody, washing shrimp in your kitchen? That's a no-no, right, for a devotee. It is kind of repulsive, right? So I mean, so is it okay to, condone these kind of, these kind of actions? I mean, is it okay to think on, bodily terms when these kind of things happen, Prabhuji? I mean,
yes, in the service of Krishna, yes, we can, because the house is Krishna's temple. So if Krishna doesn't eat it, Krishna doesn't like it, then as Krishna's servants, we don't allow it. And we also don't like it. It is in the service of Krishna, because it's Krishna's temple. Our house is Krishna's temple. So how can we allow onion, garlic, meat, fish inside the house? So that is all forbidden. Nished. It's all forbidden items. So we don't allow. Simple. Because Krishna doesn't like it. Krishna says patram pushpam phalam toya. So only that will be allowed. Is that okay?
Sure, Prabhuji, thank you. I was just thinking because my question was, in one sense relating to that, like supposing I go to somebody's place and, I for some reason, Prabhuji, I cannot eat if they, handle meat or anything like that in their kitchen. I don't know, my mind does not allow me. I have issues with that. So I was just wondering, is it okay or...
Yes, it's okay. It is mentioned in Prabhupada Lilamrit when Prabhupada was in Malaysia, I believe. Prabhupada fasted for 2.5 days when he was staying in the house of a meat eater. Prabhupada did not eat. Did not eat at all. So yes, we can have that. We can be strict with ourselves, but we have to be liberal with others. That is the principle. We can be strict with ourselves, but we have to be liberal with others. Is that okay? Sukhsagari Mataji?
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Sorry again, I came back. Sorry about that.
No. Hare Krishna. I am very sukhi that you came back. I'm happy that you came back. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, thank you so much. We have Anuradha Mataji. Please come ahead now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for all the answers, Prabhuji. Sorry, I have another question, Prabhu. Prabhu, this might be over-analyzing or overthinking, but still it was like going around. Like Sanatan Goswami, he did not accept the prasadam at the places where he could have got prasadam. But he, accepted doing madhukari, where it may not be prasadam. So like he chose renunciation in one side, but other side, it may not be prasadam, but if you would have taken it from the people whom he knows, it will be prasadam. So how do we understand as a sadhaka, Prabhu?
So Srila Sanatan Goswami ate prasad. So madhukari means you beg and you may get a half a roti somewhere, you may get a roti here, you may get little rice somewhere, little sabji somewhere. Sometimes cooked, sometimes you can get uncooked also. They can give anything. But whatever you get, you sit and you offer it to Krishna. And then you eat. So these Goswamis, they would do madhukari. They would never eat without offering to Krishna. And doing madhukari is their dharma. Just like for grihasthas, it is our dharma to light fire and to cook on fire and to offer it to Krishna, offer it to guests, offer it to sadhus, offer it to our family members. That is our dharma. That is grihastha dharma. Similarly, these Babajis and sannyasis, their dharma is that they can never light fire. They are never allowed to light fire. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never lit a fire. That is the rule of sannyas. You cannot. Therefore, when he went, he had to carry a Brahman with him, Balabhadra Bhattacharya or Kala Krishna Das. Both were Brahmans. They would light the fire and they would cook. Mahaprabhu would never cook. Sannyasis are not allowed to cook. So being a mendicant, being a Babaji, which is like a Paramhamsa level of sannyas, they were not allowed to cook. So they would just do madhukari, whatever they would get, they would offer it to Krishna and eat it. Like that.
Okay, Prabhu, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank
They
you
would
so
always
much.
offer it. Always offer it.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Vrindavan also, he would get some wheat flour, he would make a ball, just dip it in Yamuna water and just eat it. If there was a fire, he would sometimes, for the sake of Madan Mohan, so that Madan Mohan gets something cooked, he would give it to Madan Mohan, some cooked ball of wheat, and give it to Madan Mohan, and then he would distribute prasad. So that was Sanatan Goswami. They would always offer it to Krishna. Always offer. They never ate non-prasad. Always offer it to Krishna. But madhukari. Because they are not allowed to gather things, have a kitchen. No, they are not allowed all that. So whatever you get, you offer it to Krishna and eat. Is that okay?
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the sweet news. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Gaurangi Mataji, please go ahead, Mataji, with your question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you just repeat the names that Sanatana and Rupa had before they got their Muslim names?
So Rupa Goswami was called Amar, A-M-A-R, and Srila Sanatana Goswami was called Santosh, S-A-N-T-O-S, Santosh.
Okay, nice. Yeah, and just on this last point, I guess sannyasis, they aren't allowed to cook because it's just it gets them too much involved in material affairs and possessions, or
traditionally the sannyasis would go to the forest and stay in the forest. So in the forest, just roots and fruits and water, maybe milk. Like Shukdev Goswami would go to different householders and just beg little milk and drink some milk, like that. But eating hot meal is considered a luxury. Eating a hot meal is considered a luxury, and they give that up. They give up that luxury because hot meal is very tasty, feels very nice, easy to digest. But the sannyasis, they give up that luxury traditionally.
Thank you, Prabhu.
That reminds me of something very sweet. I will end with that. Our beloved head pujari at Sri Mayapur Dham, His Grace Jananivas Prabhu, and his beloved brother, His Grace Pankaj Angri Prabhu, one devotee who served them very closely for many years in Sri Navadvip Dham, once told me that for years they had never eaten a hot meal, because they would, from early morning, they would be absorbed in deity worship, cooking for the deities, dressing them up, making sure all the garlands are made, everything is done, all the artis are done on time. They would be absorbed, and they would sit in the Bhagavatam class, then again offerings. They would be busy till midday in deity worship. And then all the Raj Bhog and everything would be offered, prasadam would be distributed to everyone, and then they would sit down. And a plate would be made, a Mahaprasadam plate would be made for both the brothers. And then they would sit down and they would eat. But by the time they ate it, it was completely cold. Completely cold. Because it's Mahaprasad, na? So by the time the deities finish eating and it comes out, that time only it is cold. And then after several hours, they would honor it. So for decades, they never ate a hot meal. Never ate a hot meal. Not many devotees know this. We all like to have hot, right? Hot meal. But Jananivas Prabhu, Pankaj Angri Prabhu, for years, they never ate a hot meal in Mayapur because of their service. So I was reminded of that. So very wonderful, great souls. Hare Krishna.